Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Good morning if you're on the West Coast, because it's still 11 o'clock there. I want to thank everybody for joining us today. I'm Mike Rossetti. I'm a director of sales with myLIBRO and have been with the company pretty much since our inception. So I've gotten to watch the evolution of our app, the way that we've been able to help libraries continue to continue to improve. And obviously, a lot happened in 2020. A lot happened to libraries. A lot happened, obviously, to our world, and certainly kind of made us refocus how we were evolving myLIBRO, how we were bringing it along. And the best part about it was we had a lot of help from a lot of great librarians around the country. So today I'll be telling that story a little bit. I'll give you a good overview of some of the things that we have helped to affect in the past year. I certainly want to give credit to all of our partner libraries that have joined us from the early days, that joined us last year through COVID, helped us to continue to bring the platform around. And I'll tell you a little bit about that story today and give you some idea of where we're headed with the app and the solution in the coming years. So feel free to ask any questions. Just a couple general housekeeping items today. If you have questions, we do have a chat available here in Zoom, so just go ahead and put those into chat. I'll answer those when we get to a break. And we also have another member of our team on the call that'll be happy to jump in and answer any general questions that you may have as well. We'll also be sharing a recording out and sending some follow-up, including this slide deck, in the next day or two. So look for that. If you're not the best at taking notes, you will have all the information that we present, both through the recording and through our slide deck that we'll be sharing. So today we're going to talk quite a bit about how myLIBRO has changed. I think we have a couple people on the call who I have either worked with you directly or I've talked maybe to members of your staff. So we're glad to get the opportunity to share some of this information with you directly. And really, myLIBRO last year through COVID became very much in the early months, right after everything started in March, about scheduling, about helping libraries that had to close, had to deliver services to patrons even when they couldn't be in the building. So that was a lot of our focus in 2020. But as we moved through that year, a lot of the tone in our conversations with our libraries started to shift away from that and started to look ahead to what's going to happen after COVID. Now, obviously, in many states throughout the country, we're kind of going back into a period right now where everybody's looking at how things are evolving with the growing numbers and everything that's changing throughout your states and throughout the changes with COVID. So who knows what we're going to be looking at a few months from now, but from a development standpoint, we're still moving forward with the thought that libraries are going to continue to see an evolution in how they provide services, and those may change briefly or temporarily through COVID, but we're still kind of looking beyond that with the same opportunity that we may have to make some adjustments as we move through that. So last year was a huge growth year for our company. We went from about 70 partner libraries at the beginning of 2020 to just north of 250 by the end of the year. And from a company standpoint, a lot of that had to do with the fact that our product team was working feverishly to deliver updated enhancements that were addressing the constantly changing needs through what our libraries were facing throughout the year. What that also led to, though, was a lot of great conversations. Obviously, I was able to have a lot of those conversations. Our onboarding teams, our sales team was able to have a lot of discussions with libraries about what are things going to look like beyond COVID. And the thing that we kept hearing over and over again was that libraries realized very much in 2020 that a lot of their patrons weren't quite aware of maybe all the services that a library offered, all the resources that they deliver, all the ways that they help their communities. And this applies to our academic partners too. I think a lot of our academic partners saw that there was a need on their campuses that maybe students didn't realize how much the library filled those needs and ways that they were able to help with research and reference and those types of things. So just a lot of different discussions that took place kind of led to the development of some of the solutions that we're presenting today in the app. And really, we're going to get a little bit deeper into this as we go into the discussion. But the thing that resonated with us very much so from all those conversations was that 24/7 connection between libraries and their patrons or libraries and their students had become more important than ever. I think the need to constantly notify each other of things that were going on, make patrons and students aware that even though the library building might be closed physically, there's still a lot of things that you can do, a lot of ways that you can learn, a lot of ways that we can help your life. Secondly, a lot of our libraries said, right now we have a place that patrons go to book their, to schedule their books, and maybe to schedule their curbside pickups, and to visit an audiobook or an ebook, or to take advantage of some of the other services that we offer. If we could start to bring those into one setting where people could accomplish a lot of those functions, a lot of those tasks, without having to jump around to 5 or 6 different mobile sites, that would be a huge win. So we certainly took that into consideration. Third, and this is really something that's been there since the early days of myLIBRO, accessibility is always at the top of minds of many of our libraries, almost all of our libraries really, and finding better ways to deliver services to those who are sight impaired or those who have difficulty with screens, while at the same time serving this new generation that's growing up with voice assistants on every single device that they own, is just used to communicating through voice with their device. All of these things that were things that from the earliest days up until some of our latest development, we've wanted to continue to offer in our solution. So during our conversations, we really identified some goals from all of our libraries. And these were all things that took place in 2020 and led us to the development of myLIBRO 3.0 that we released back on July 1st. Everybody across the board between public libraries and academic libraries said over and over again, increasing circulation is goal number one. Most of our libraries saw huge hits, I would say, in the delivery of physical materials. Many of them that I think did a good job with marketing and with promotion saw an increase in some usage in terms of digital resources and other things that maybe had been underutilized in the past. But getting a circulation level, some of those traditional methods that library serves their community, was a big focus for almost all of our customers. Secondly, as we start to offer programs, and again, as we start to bring people back into the building for events, many of our colleges and universities are starting semesters this week or next week, and all of them, public libraries and academics, said getting people comfortably back into the building, helping them take advantage of the services that are offered, our meeting rooms, our computers, our passport photos, everything like that, really positioning the library for a full rebound that made people comfortable and helped us to continue to serve our communities. Third, I think we heard over and over again that a lot of our libraries said, we really saw this rise in digital resource usage. We saw the way that people were using the library when they couldn't physically come in, and realizing they could read their local newspaper, or they could do research in a journal or in a database. Finding ways to position those products through a singular point of entry that once they're authenticated, that you can just quickly surf, use all the different aspects of the library, reserve materials, book the reservations, do everything like that, was a big goal of many of our customers too. The fourth one was more of an internal desire. I think a lot of library directors looked at their staff and said, it's been a really tough year, still is. I think 2021 hasn't changed that much in terms of having to adjust and pivot and make concessions in a lot of ways. So trying to ease the load on staff, provide more contactless service, free those staff members up to handle some of the more complex tasks in the library space, just so that things were still easier, things were a little bit easier on the staff, but also more convenient and safe for the patrons as well. So as I mentioned, big growth year last year. We've continued to see that through the first 8 months of this year. It's been an exciting time for the company, but more so because of the ways that we've seen it impact our libraries. And these are just a couple of the quotes, couple of the references that we've gotten from some of our libraries in terms of how we're working behind the scenes to make things better in their communities. One thing I do want to give a huge kudo out to our product team, who works, it seems like, around the clock to deliver constant enhancements. Whenever a librarian writes us with any kind of concern or something's not quite working right, the speed at which they handle those concerns to me, who's worked for a number of other companies, is amazing. I think it's something, if you get to the point where you want references, you want to talk to some of our customers, I think you'll hear that from the majority of them, the way that we try to handle customer service. So really quick overview before we jump into the live demo, and I certainly want to leave time for any questions, any conversation towards the end of this today. It's not a huge audience, so we certainly welcome any input, any questions or thoughts. Feel free to share those either through the chat or towards the end. We can even open up the microphones and allow people to ask questions if you like as well. So myLIBRO from the very beginning has always been about the ILS connection, and that's really the kind of the starting point in our implementations. And for a lot of our prospective customers that come to us at first, they'll say, well, why do I need that? I have a mobile site, or patrons primarily use our website. The thing that we've seen from the customers that have made the decision to come on board with myLIBRO is what it's doing is it's basically providing that central point of entry to the library in a mobile environment in a way that works extremely well and extremely efficiently. In a conversation last week, a librarian that just onboarded maybe 2 or 3 months ago and just has patrons, in the past month or two, really getting accustomed to the app, has heard over and over again, this is almost dangerous. I'm booking so many materials now because it's just so easy. It's simple to find things. It's making recommendations of other things that maybe I want to see because I've liked another book or another program. So that ease of use and the fact that we're trying to make patrons in a lot of ways become marketers for the library. We want them to share out when they've read a great book. We want them to look for other items because they've enjoyed one particular item. So that ILS connection, which we work with about 90% of the ILS providers out there. There are a couple ILS systems that we've run into some issues because they have very limited connectivity capabilities. So, but those usually aren't even worth having the discussion because we see those so rarely that it's one of the first questions we'll ask you in a demo is who's your ILS provider. Many times we even know that before we get into the call. And if there's not a fit, we certainly wouldn't waste your time if we've worked with enough of the ILS providers to know what we can work with and what we can't. Once that ILS connection's made, though, your patron authenticates one time. And from there, they have full account management capabilities, placing holds, reserving and renewing, checking their fines, accomplishing all of those tasks that previously they would have had to come to your website or physically into the library for. One of our most exciting upcoming developments is we've recently partnered with Overdrive and lately with Cloud Library as well, which is going to bring the capabilities for us to play audiobooks and deliver ebooks directly through the app as well. Long-term goal is to also bring those through the smart speaker play, which is going to basically enable a patron to start a book on their mobile device and then jump right into the same spot that they left off on their Alexa device when they get home. Google integration is still on our roadmap. It did get pushed back a little bit through COVID and with all the other enhancements that have come, but that is something that's still in our roadmap, which would basically allow us to cover about 95% of the smart speaker market that's out there. Also, in the current version, the old version of myLIBRO, last year notifications became a very important thing for libraries in an app. We saw those used primarily in 2020 for letting patrons know about emergency closures or process changes or mask orders or any of those types of things that you had to share information on in 2020. Starting to see that again, unfortunately. We're seeing a number of changes to processes and policies for a lot of our customers. There's a little period there in spring and summer where we started to see this notification system being used quite a bit for announcing programs, announcing good news that our buildings are open longer hours, or you don't need a reservation to come use a computer anymore, those types of things. The notification system is controlled completely by the libraries, as are most of the features of the app. So you're able to actually change these processes, make these announcements at your leisure whenever you need to have that one more layer of communication with your patron group or with your student group. We've always brought connectivities to events and programs. If you have a program calendar like a LibCal or a Demco or something like that, we do have integration directly into those programs. For all of our others, we typically pull directly from the website with an RSS feed. So it really requires no additional work on your end. Your patrons are able to see what kind of programs or events are coming up that week or that month, and they're able to interact, reserve space for those if they need to, quickly make a phone call, check on locations. It's not taking place at the library. Lots of different methods of interaction. Through COVID, we brought a full reservation system through myLIBRO, which allows you to book everything from curbside or contactless pickup to scheduling for meeting rooms, study rooms. We have libraries that are booking appointments for passport photos, even a couple libraries that have been helping their patrons get signed up for vaccination appointments. So really, you have full control of that through your admin portal. You're able to adjust those services, those hours, anything else that you need to on the fly as you have to make changes. And then, of course, we offer frequently asked questions about the library, like hours, policies, locations, etc. This was where we started to pivot it with myLIBRO 3.0. And like I said, this just launched back on July 1st. So we're coming up on 2 months of having the new version of the app on the market. And the majority of our patrons have switched over from the old 2.0 application into 3.0. What this is doing is, and really our goals here were based on conversations we had with our libraries. So I always mention we're a technology company, but this app was built primarily by public and academic librarians. This is something that we asked them over and over again, what do you want to see? Where should we go with this? And it was a year's worth of development coming to what we delivered through myLIBRO 3.0, and we'll continue to deliver with future enhancements. So really making it more immersive. Last year, I'd say the 2.0 version was handy, but it was also very process oriented. You basically clicked the button, you moved through the app, you did the things that you needed to do to book a material pickup, to schedule a pickup, to do all of those types of things. Now it's much more free flowing. You'll notice it's much more immersive. It draws people in. It asks them to look for other things that maybe they hadn't considered. We're looking at some things in the future with being able to tie in things that you might see in a Goodreads app where you have reading streaks, gamification. I know some of our libraries that don't manage or that manage their summer reading programs manually have asked us to look next year at some ways that we can maybe even incorporate some summer reading functions through the application as well. So these are all parts of the upcoming roadmap in terms of development, but they're things that we've been discussing internally. Things that are there right now, we are delivering book recommendations for most of our ILS systems, which these are pushed out straight from the ILS. They're based on new arrivals, popular books based on checkouts. Some of our libraries are sharing staff recommendations through blogs and other methods. So the front page, as you see when we go into the live demo here in a few minutes, the front page of the application looks a lot, and our libraries have said this, looks a lot like a mobile discovery layer. Basically, you can customize many aspects of that front page. You can customize what shows up there in a lot of respects, as long as there's technical capability. So this does become much more custom than anything myLIBRO has offered in the past, especially if you've looked at us over the past year, 16 months or so. One of the new things that we've launched with the events, and that'll be coming soon, are program recommendations. So patron being able to indicate an interest or a hobby, and whenever a new program hits the calendar that aligns to those interests, have those recommendations pushed out. All with the goal of increasing those circulation, increasing those engagement metrics that we were talking about. So you'll notice that there's a consistent theme here that everything that we're working on is tied to those initial goals that we looked at. A lot of our academic partners and even some of our public library partners said, students search in a different way. They may not know an author title or even a keyword. So if they can do a category search and jump right into psychology or self-help or anything like that, we'd like to see that. So you'll notice there is a category search capability in the new version of the application, and patrons and students can also build out a wish list now. So I was looking this morning at some new books that are coming out. They're a couple months away. I can quickly add those to my wish list, and then I'll be notified when they become available. I don't have to think to look back once that book finally hits the press and hits the library. One of the new developments that's coming in the coming months is chat with a librarian. So from an engagement metric and a way to keep your patrons consistently in touch with the library, we want them to be able to do a text chat with the library staff member if they have a reference question, a general question, a homework help question. Again, the library controls all of these features. So I know some of our libraries have said we really don't have the staff for that. No problem. You just turn it off. If you decide to use it down the road, it's available for you. A number of our ILSs offer self-check APIs and self-check features. So some of our libraries now are allowing patrons to scan their books or their items with the barcode with their mobile device, check themselves out on the fly. We do not work around RFID yet. So that's something, if you do have RFID in your library, the self-check features are a little bit more distant unless you have a way for patrons to disable those security measures physically in the building. But the big reason self-check was developed, I know a number of our libraries have kiosks or had kiosks. They said they're expensive. The maintenance on them can be a nightmare. This is a way that you take all of those leasing needs, all of those maintenance needs out of the equation. And as long as that patron has a mobile device that works, they can self-check themselves out of the library. We're bringing more social elements so that patrons can, like I said, help you market, help you let other patrons know what's going on. If they've read a great book or if they've taken a part in a great program, we want them to share that out on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram and help your library continue to market itself and embed itself in the community. Potentially some exciting GPS capabilities coming soon. Right now, you can already find your nearest branch. You can find your nearest libraries very quickly and easily. We are working with a couple partners now on some other GPS capabilities that we'll be ready to announce hopefully in the next few months, which I think will open up some other opportunities for libraries in their communities as well. And then, like I said, we have our libraries are bringing us new ideas constantly. So without further ado, I want to jump into the live view of our application here. Cassandra, can you confirm that you can see my mobile screen? I just want to make sure this is coming through properly.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. So what we're looking at now is the patron-facing interface for myLIBRO. And if you were one of the few on this call today that maybe did a demo with us last year and previously, I think you'll notice some pretty distinct differences very quickly. The first one being some customization in terms of being able to deliver a photo of the library, which can easily be changed. Over time, we're bringing the capability for the libraries to change this on their own so that you're able to bring out any particular items or maybe make changes by season if you like. The library card basically includes all the account features. So from here, a patron is able to go in. Obviously, they authenticate one time. They can update all of their settings, turn on that active mic listening or those voice audible responses, connect to their Alexa devices, do anything from the settings features that they need to. This also creates a digital version of their library card. So your patrons coming into the building without their physical library card can just use their mobile device for your staff to check them out. They can scan this barcode, check themselves out, and do this without having to produce their physical library card. Within here, I can quickly see anything I have available for pickup, which I just scheduled all my pickups, so I don't have anything available there. But my holds now that I have things that I have on hold if I want to cancel those. And I can manage my entire family here too. So I can add additional cards, manage everybody from one app, take care of the kids pickups, the spouse pickups, partners, anything like that can be done here directly through the app. I can see everything that I have checked out just by clicking the cart button here. And if there's anything that's coming up for renewal, that's available for renewal, I can go ahead and just click the renew button. You'll notice you're able to quickly view and renew everything that you have coming up in the coming days. And lastly, the wish list I talked about. If there's something that's not available yet, or maybe that isn't available for checkout at that point, I can add that to my wish list and I can manage that fully from this position as well, including getting notifications when something becomes available for me. Categorical search I mentioned, lots of different categories that patrons can search by. They can scroll through and just click on a particular item to search by category. They can also scroll down, just take a look at new arrivals. So if there's things that are new to the library, I can scroll through, I can look at all the different offerings, and this is all materials. This isn't just physical books. It can be DVDs, it can be audiobooks, it can be anything like that that is new to the ILS, as well as those popular books that are getting a lot of checkouts, that are seem to be drawing a lot of interest, just pointing people towards those things that maybe they hadn't thought previously to check out. Looks like we might have a question. Yeah. Oh, okay, just saying. Thanks for letting me know my phone looks good. So, all right. Oops. Moving through, as I mentioned, so from a discovery layer standpoint, one of the things that some of our libraries want to do is they want to show their events and programs right here on the front page. You can do that. Some libraries are presenting their blogs here or pushing out maybe other digital resources that they want to link to. So if you just signed on with that, with one of those database companies, and you want to make sure your patrons know about that, they can link directly out to those databases here. And just anything that you want to promote, that you want to get in front of patrons or students, you can do so directly here from the front page. I'll switch libraries here momentarily and show you just the way a couple of our other customers are using this front page as well. Down here at the bottom is our main menu. So from the home screen, I can jump over into the search. One of the things you'll notice is I can search by author, title, keyword, or subject. The platform will, through the ILS, keep track of some of my previous searches. So while all of this is encrypted to myLIBRO and we don't have any access to any of the patron data or what they're searching, on their mobile device, they can see everything that they've searched for in the past. If I want to do an author search, I can just come in here and voice in the author or type it in. And you'll see it's going to bring up everything that the library offers. It's going to show both audio and physical books, or as well as any other material types that are available, if there were any films or anything like that. And it's going to search everything by that particular author. When I click on a particular book or title, it's going to bring up all the pertinent information, including the ISBN info, location, the library, if that's available in your ILS. It's like we're crawling along a little bit there. I can add that to my wish list if I wish to, just by clicking the ribbon button up here at the top. Read fully about the book, check all the ISBN details, all the call number details, and with a click of a button, I can place a hold to my library or to my account. If you are a multi-branch library, there is a way for patrons to set up their default location, but also to book materials to other libraries as well if you need that. We work with libraries from as small as 1,000 patrons up to libraries that have 600, 700, 800,000 active patrons. So we found different ways to address needs of all of our library customers and to make sure it fits your patrons' needs perfectly. So as I mentioned, recent searches are cached here in my app. I can go back. I don't have to do a new search. If there's something I've already looked up and want to get more information on, I can just go back and scroll through that info. The third button down here, the chat button, is where myLIBRO is pretty unique to a lot of other apps that are out there in the market. This is a virtual assistant essentially for your library's patron. So from here, they can do just about anything. This is where we can interact in voice. We can have an audible response read to us. We can accomplish anything, including account management, to search, to checking upcoming events, to listing library information. All of this is listed here in the menu, just to give them an idea of things that they can do from here. But I can also just come in and say, events this week. Haverhill doesn't have any events going on this week, but that'll show you if we are connected to your events calendar, you're able to quickly search events coming up. You're able to find out what's going on at the library. Is the library open now? What time does it close today? Any of those types of things can be done directly from here. The schedule button is where we work with you with your patrons to schedule their pickups. I know many of our libraries are still doing curbside or some kind of contactless pickup. Some are bringing that back as they see numbers increase in their area. So if you have materials ready for pickup, patrons can book that directly here from the app. And then the other thing that they can do is they can also schedule any visits to your library. So this particular library in Massachusetts is taking schedules for everything from study rooms to picking up copies or faxes, to kids' room, to vaccine assistants, computers. This is where I mentioned on the back end in the portal, you control all aspects of this. You can name these whatever you want. You can set the parameters in terms of hours that they're available, number of resources that are available, capacities, anything like that. And when the patron books something, they're going to get a notification that they've booked that appointment. We'll just go ahead and schedule one here for a study room for tomorrow. You'll see it showing me all available times. Click on that. If there's any special needs, I can let the library know that, and the librarian will see that in the portal. Once I'm set, I can just go ahead and confirm that appointment. And you'll see my visit's been scheduled. Now, tomorrow morning, I'll get a notification on my phone that I have an appointment coming up. I can choose to add that to my phone's calendar. So I have one more layer of reminder and one more layer of notification. Jumping over to, we'll switch over to another library. I think this one's offering self-check. So you'll see there's a fifth button here for self-check when the library is enabling that checkout feature and that self-check feature. When a patron clicks on that, what it's going to do is basically pull up their barcode information. They're just going to scan the item on the back of the book. Once that identifies, you'll see it's not fetching what I'm showing here on my screen, but once you put that to a barcode on one of your materials in the library, it's going to offer the opportunity to check that out. And once that's done, they'll be able to walk out of the library with their book. Like I said, we have a number of libraries that are using this, others that are saying, we'll take another look at that down the road if we need it. You control all the aspects of the application through your portal. So question came up, does it deactivate RFID tags? Currently, it does not. Libraries that have RFID would have to have a way to deactivate that, but we are looking at that on a company by company basis. So that's certainly something we can discuss in a demo, which company you're working with from RFID standpoint and see what capabilities there are for deactivation. But currently, a number of our libraries have moved away from RFID, and that's why they wanted the self-check features there in the app. So we'll jump back over and just finish up a couple more things before we answer any further questions before we wrap up today. But I've been mentioning the back end of the system. As I said, you have a full administrative control that allows you to set up all of those resources, manage everything internally, send out your notifications, and stay in constant control of the application of the solution for your patrons and students. If you're doing scheduling, either for curbside or for in-library services, you have a real-time dashboard that every time someone makes a reservation, your staff gets notified. They'll see that there's a new reservation that's been placed, new things that are awaiting pickup, maybe a new meeting room that's been booked. Whatever services you're offering, staff has access to a real-time dashboard on all of their desktops throughout the computer or throughout the library. The other thing, in addition to the mobile app for those offering service booking, we create a web URL. So if you have some patrons that are just app adverse or just very used to using their computers, in addition to the app, they're going to be able to book on the on a website, on a desktop, be able to book an appointment for curbside or for in-library services just as they would in the app. How does it deal with fines upon checkout, if any? With a lot of our systems, if your patrons have any restrictions due to fines being owed, it would notify them that they're not able to schedule pickup. We have, in some cases, linked out to payment systems if you have a way for them to pay online. All of those things we're happy to walk through during a demo as well. One of the things I always like to mention, because everybody asks about usage, everybody wants to know how the app's being used, how your patrons are interacting, what your services are. So we saw the parent company to myLIBRO is a company called Conversite.ai. And Conversite is a company that works in the supply chain space to deliver data analytics through natural language conversation. Essentially, I always tell our librarians, think of this like Google or Siri for your library's data. You just ask a question, it generates a report for you. It pulls up information. So your reporting dashboard basically will show you how your schedules are being placed, busiest hours and days of the week, how many holds are being placed through the app, lots of different information that's going to pull in there, and you have full access to that reporting dashboard whenever you need it. It's also very easy to create reports that you're going to be able to use for your board meetings, for your financial presentations, for anything like that going forward, and to provide some insights into maybe ways that you can market resources differently, try to find methods for reaching out to patrons that are being underserved or maybe aren't using the libraries as much as you would like them to. As we start to wrap up, one of the things I always mentioned, that the VPAT certification was important from the earliest days. I know a lot of our libraries are looking for ways to check off those ADA compliance boxes. So we do bring, with the voice capabilities, both through the app and through the smart speaker, we do help libraries check some of those boxes for anybody who's sight impaired or has difficulty with screens. But we also like our libraries to think even way beyond that. Obviously, I think libraries have made a huge initiative over the past 10, 15 years in many areas to modernize, to look for new ways to serve their communities. This is just that next step in terms of everybody's used to using an app. They're using it for their grocery shopping. They're used to using it for other shopping. They're used to using it for, their GPS and getting wherever they have to go. Now it's just one more thing that they basically, it's just become a way of life. So now to be able to use that in the library space too, find out all the great things that your libraries do for its communities, engage more, become more involved. That's been a big goal of the development of myLIBRO. One of our biggest questions that we get as we get closer to adding a new customer is, how do I let my patrons know about this? So we provide full marketing, promotional, and product support. Obviously, I mentioned our product team earlier. If you need them, they're available almost around the clock. I would say, without a doubt, you're going to get an answer from a member of our company within a few hours if you have any kind of technical concern. Anytime there's an outage, I don't think we've had an outage in more than a year. Those outages were addressed within an hour or two each time. And I think there were 3 right around the time that COVID started, when we started to grow rapidly and we had a lot more patrons suddenly using the app. Has not been a factor at all in the past year. From a marketing and promotion standpoint, though, we are there to help you at all times. We have a full digital marketing kit that we send you upon launch. It includes things like press releases, sample social media posts, printable materials like bookmarks, tent cards, things like that. And if you need something else, there's something you say, we've had success with this type of marketing in the past, we have a team that's willing to help you. And our number one goal, obviously, is always make sure our customers succeed, make sure our patrons and students are happy. We did a lot with pricing last year through COVID. We've continued that. We're here to help. Our philosophy with pricing is, if a customer wants myLIBRO, we will do everything in our power to try to make that happen from a pricing standpoint. And that means, lots of different payment options, prorating, working with you mid-budget year, because we know a lot of times, especially last year, these expenses were unforeseen. So we had to help libraries find a way to add a scheduling service that they had not budgeted for. And this was even before emergency funds from COVID became available. So we always encourage you, if this is the solution for you, talk to us, let's work together, let's find a way to make that happen. So kind of along those lines, we're pretty excited about we have a good attendance today. We're looking to continue to build our family of myLIBRO libraries. So in that interest, we're offering everybody that's here today a chance to win a free tablet. If you attended today and you book a demo and complete a demo with us by September 15th, we're going to enter you into a drawing. We're giving away 5 tablets. I think we have maybe 15 libraries or so on this call, so you get a 1 in 3 chance if you sign up. These tablets will be, can be used anywhere in your library, however you choose. And it's going to be one more way for you to show myLIBRO should you choose to go forward with us. But I think that's about everything. Would love to hear any questions or thoughts that anybody has. Feel free to share anything in the chat. We'll stay on for a few more minutes if there's any questions. As I mentioned too, we will be sharing out this slide deck and the recording of this demo probably in the next day or two, I would say before the end of the week. And if to book a demo with us, you can basically email me directly at Mike Rossetti at conversite.ai. As I said, we'll be doing the outreach also, so you can always respond to that outreach. Say, yes, I'd like to book a demo. Demos take about 30 minutes. We'll walk you through a more detailed version of what we did today. Obviously, the big goal of that is we want to hear about your library specifically, since we can't have that conversation in a larger group setting. We want to hear about some of the challenges you faced, some of the things that you see coming up, et cetera. So this question, are there any community colleges using this? Any in North Carolina? We have a number of community colleges. I'd say we had anywhere from 10 to 12 community colleges last year, in addition to maybe a dozen or so academic partners at universities and colleges. A lot of those used those for a variety of different ways last year in terms of scheduling, but also being able to just open up that catalog, especially with many of those being open to their larger communities as a whole. I'm not sure if we have any community colleges in North Carolina. We have a number of public libraries in North Carolina, but I could certainly check on that, Catherine, and let you know. Any other questions today? Is pricing done per service pop? Good question. We didn't even talk about pricing. Pricing is done for, in terms of public libraries, pricing is done based on active card holders. So most of our libraries, because 2020 saw such a dip in that number, maybe not, because a lot of our libraries had a pretty active digital resource usage. Most of our libraries are looking at 2019 and 2020 and giving us an aggregate from the active card holders for that. For our academic community colleges and universities and colleges, we base our pricing on FTE, and they are annual subscriptions. We have a number of libraries in Texas. I know that was a question that Lisa asked. I'd be happy to provide some of the Texas libraries. I think we have at least a dozen down in the state of Texas. I know a number of them are in the Dallas, San Antonio area, maybe a couple down around Houston or so. Well, I want to thank everybody for being here today. As I said, I'll stay on for a few more minutes in case there's any other questions that come up. We certainly appreciate your time and look forward to hearing from you. We'd love to talk to you, have a deeper discussion about your library and show you a more in-depth demo and give you a chance to win one of these tablets. Thanks so much, everybody.